Ever wondered why your expensive steak sometimes turns out tough as leather? Or why that cheap cut of meat can taste like heaven when cooked right? Today, we're diving into the science of meat cooking, and trust me, it's more complex than you think. Let's start at the beginning. Ever wonder how our caveman ancestors stumbled upon the idea of cooking meat? Picture this: a lightning strike, a forest fire, and suddenly, that raw mammoth steak becomes a mouth-watering delicacy. Fast forward a few millennia, and we've gone from open flames to sous vide machines. But here's where it gets juicy, literally. As the meat is heated from the hot pan, the amino acids react with the reducing sugars that are present in the meat, and it creates numerous new compounds such as pyrazines, furans, and theophanies. These are the unsung heroes that give meat its juicy flavor and that sweet aroma that makes our mouths water. In other words, when you cook meat in a hot pan but not scorching hot, it starts to change. The heat makes tiny parts in the meat called amino acids mix with sugars that are also in the meat. This mix creates new things like pyrazines, furans, and theophanies. These new things make the meat taste really good and helps release the delicious scent, which is why it makes you so hungry and excited to eat it. You've probably heard that searing meat seals in the juices, right? Well, hold on to your aprons, because that's about as real as a Tyrannosaurus Rex steak. Searing doesn't seal anything, it's all about that flavor, baby. What searing actually does is kick off the Maillard reaction. It's a fancy term for what happens when amino acids and sugars get together at high temperatures and decide to throw a flavor party. The result, that delicious brown crust that people love in their steak or burgers. If you want to perfect the art of Maillard reaction, you must master the fundamentals that drive the reaction time and temperature. Let's start with temperature. As previously stated, the Maillard reaction starts over 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius. As you increase the temperature, it becomes more pronounced. But cook at a temperature too high, and your meat will burn, especially the crust, which will become bitter and charred. The same goes for timing. If you cook for too long, the reaction will prolong, and the meat will get burnt. So it is vital to have an understanding of your cooking equipment and always be vigilant when you have a steak on the grill. Whether you are grilling or roasting, it's a matter of measuring the time and temperature to get a perfectly cooked piece of meat. While Maillard's reaction is doing all the hard work, you can play your part to further enhance the flavor of your meat. Here are 2 pro tips to bring out the best flavor from your meat. Use a dry rub or marinade that contains amino acids and sugars. This will amplify the reaction and act as a catalyst for the flavor. Next, cook your meat at a low temperature until cooked to your preference. Then briefly introduce it to high heat just before finishing. This will start the Maillard reaction and give your meat the signature steak crust. And finally, understanding the importance of resting your meat is crucial for preserving its natural juices and maximizing flavor. Let's face it, how many of you people ended up cutting the steak after cooking it and ended up putting a bunch of sauce into your meat because it's flavorless and dry as hell? Let it rest after cooking. Allow your meat to rest for a few minutes before slicing and serving. This allows the juices to redistribute evenly throughout the meat, ensuring a juicy and flavorful bite. But not all cooking methods are created equal. Quick cooking methods like searing and grilling are great for tender cuts that just need a quick kiss of heat. But what about those tougher cuts that could double as shoe leather? That's where slow cooking methods like simmering come in to save the day. Simmering is when the meat is then slowly cooked in liquid, usually in a Dutch oven or slow cooker. The liquid can be water, stock, wine, beer, or cider. The long, moist cooking breaks down the meat's collagen and connective tissues into gelatin, a protein that thickens the liquid and makes the meat more tender. Gelatin can also absorb up to 10 times its weight in water, which helps keep the meat moist. As the gelatin cools, it causes the broth to set. In other words, when you cook meat for a long time with lots of liquid, something cool happens. The meat's tough parts break down and turn into gelatin. Gelatin is a special protein that makes the liquid thicker and makes the meat much softer and easier to eat. So, what's the scientific secret sauce behind all this? It's all about matching the right method to the right cut. Those tough shoulder cuts, they need low and slow cooking to break down all that collagen into gelatin, creating a texture that's more melt in your mouth than work your jaw muscles. On the flip side, a tenderloin just needs a quick sear to reach perfection.